Hello, MGTOW. Hello, men. This is Howard Dare. Thanks for stopping by. So, I want to talk about what I am calling a lack of emotional control on the part of feminists, leftists, globalists, social justice warriors. Because I believe that is what we are witnessing. You know, when you're involved in your life, getting around, dealing with reality, dealing with obstacles, the individual events, they start to look like, it's hard to see the big picture. So what we're really seeing is this overall lack of emotional control. These people pitching fits. They can say they don't like Trump's immigration policy. Right? They can say that the Russians hacked the election. They can say that women only get 75 cents, on the dollar for what a man gets. They can say, that this immigration policy, lacks humanity. They can say that you can't build a wall because it sends the wrong message. So they say all these things. They say a great many things. But it all stems from one thing. They're upset. Their emotions are out of control. They're angry. They're pissed off. Things are not turning out the way they want them to turn out. And it's going to get increasingly worse for them, isn't it? Some of you know this, and many of you I'm trying to, talk to you guys and explain this to you. They're not dealing with reality. They're dealing with their feelings and their emotions and what they want. They're convincing themselves that, they are right, that they are virtuous, that they are humanity's best representatives. And then anything that disagrees with them or doesn't go along with their desires is obviously evil, and if you don't agree with me on this point, and I have some other points to make regarding this, then you are just like Hitler, right? So that's how it works. And if you don't understand that, allow me to continue. This expression of these emotional outbursts, you're not going to witness this from a man who has to deal in reality and is effective. This type of behavior and the masculine type of behavior are different ends of the spectrum. One is this feminized, emotional, estrogen-based behavior, this desire for security, this nurturing aspect. The other is this masculine behavior, which, at its best is very practical, very confident, reality-based, reality-oriented, puts the feelings aside, comes back to them later. And I've been talking about the toxic female lately, and it's a loaded term, right? But it's more about this continuum of estrogen and testosterone. So is there a point when we get what I would call estrogen poisoning, where the female just becomes too feminized, or the hormones just go out of whack in some way, because that's a simplification, isn't it? Just to say too much estrogen. When the truth is no, there's this whole cycle of these things that should be in balance, and they're just probably just going up and down all over the place. I think it's shocking to look at the use of various antidepressants, and you can see this in YouTube videos, like just do a search on, Paxil or something like that, or any of the SSRIs, and you'll see people who start taking it, and, videos over the course of 6 months to a year, and it's fascinating the transformations that take place because they become asexual, they become highly, emotional and sensitive. They literally become the special snowflake. And they even start using that term, and the women cut their hair and they start dressing like a man, and they become involved in very particular social issues. So check that out. This goes towards this mindset. How do you even develop a person who's that, so emotional, who has this expectation that, they should win the election because they're a woman and because they're good and because you're like Hitler, right? When none of it's true. It's just this made up stuff so that they can have this stance, so they can imagine themselves as virtuous and doing the right thing. That's it. And it's a whole society. It's a whole culture of emotional entitlement. And the men are indoctrinated in it. They're brought up in it. This is what the media projects as normalized behavior, and it completely discourages the masculine, practical behavior, which is what the man and the male, the young man, the young boy growing up, it's what he needs in order to become strong and capable and fit. Otherwise, he becomes an emotional dependent on the state, and he has a horrible life. And then he runs around trying to please the people around him and the feminized state and the gynocentric world around him. He tries to please them, and he can't. And it's in opposition to his own physiology, to his own male physiology. When you ask a man to say that he's no different from a woman, you are essentially physiologically castrating him. You're putting a complete damper on his whole physiology. But when you say to a woman, hey, you're not as strong as a man, you don't do her any harm. There is no great physiological response that takes place within her. So when you say we're equals, you're hurting the man. Not because it's an insult, because women are so beneath a man, but because the man has to be built up into this creature of, overcoming obstacles, of dealing with reality. There will not be an emotional system. There will not be a government system. There will not be welfare for the man. So why are we treating him? Why are we? Because they want to indoctrinate him. They want to indoctrinate him. They want him to go along with their system, right? So I understand that it's extremely difficult for men out there, and that it's like hopeless for a young man trapped in a situation like this. But then there are other men who are taking control of their lives, who take control of their health, who are strong, who have a good attitude, and who are moving forward in their lives. And that's the attitude that a man needs to have. But he can't have that attitude in a society that's geared towards pleasing women and creating this entitled princess bitch. And she goes crazy, right? As she gets older and she hits the wall and she loses her sexual market value and men are no longer attracted to her and she can't manipulate and command that attention, she starts to go crazy. And with the, antidepressants, and with the attitude and values that our society and our culture creates and fosters through the media, through all of our institutions, it's this emotional coddling. It's this prioritizing of unimportant, emotional, subjective measures. And it's this minimizing and demonizing of this practical male behavior, this requirement for respect and human dignity and freedom. Yeah, this idea of freedom, it's not just some abstraction. It's something that if you don't let men have it, they die. It kills them. So they fight for it. And any form, death to tyrants, any form of tyranny, strong, capable, healthy human beings will fight against it. Any form. And, the danger is on a personal level, when you become empowered through these values and behaviors. And we do. That's like, would you like to be the boss? It's like, yeah, I'm sure you would, right? Because then if in many instances, because, for a younger person, because then if you screw up, you don't get fired, right? It's like, oh, and you get to give yourself a raise, right? It's like, not exactly. I mean, you can do that, right? But that's not going to help the company of which you are a boss. The company of which you are a boss might be served very well if you don't give yourself a raise, if you do hold yourself to a standard, right? That's the only way to that your company is going to get ahead. Unless you get lucky and you win the lottery or something like that. I think you understand the contrast that I'm trying to make, right? It's the difference between somebody getting lucky and living in fear and having to get by on their wits and their friendships the whole time versus somebody developing their skills and their abilities and being able to overcome obstacles and deal with problems as they come along and have a plan, execute that plan, make adjustments to that plan as necessary, because it will be necessary, and not get distracted, not get all emotional and lost in the whole thing. That's what a man has to be able to do. And if he loses that ability, if you mess with his emotions, this is what men don't understand. Like, if you make them watch an emotional movie and then you start making them feel guilty and then you start shaming them, they lose their ability to do that. And when they lose their ability to do that, they become sick physically. They become lost in mindless pursuits and hobbies that don't actually build up their strength. And this is what we're witnessing, so we're witnessing this explosion of crazy entitled princess bitches, of these crazy women and their crazy ideas that are destroying civilization. And men are going along with it, because the men just want to please the women and they're raised in this system. And then you're looking at the destruction of the strong, capable, middle-class tradesmen. Just the man who can actually do a good job and get things done. And not all of them, of course. I mean, there's a lot of you guys that are hearing this and they're saying, no, Howard, I've got this. And I know you do. And I look to men like you and say, what can I do to be more like that? Because that's what a man needs to be able to do in life. And that's what I try to do. And that's what I encourage in other men and try to help in other men. And when I witness the other behavior, I'm getting less and less emotional and less upset about it and more just, focused on setting a different kind of an example or providing different kinds of information. I may have gone off track here a little bit, but not really. It's this overindulgence of the female. It's the prioritizing of the woman's wants and needs throughout all of civilization, throughout all of the institutions, in the way that the young are raised. And for the man to be successful and for the society, the civilization to be successful, you can't prioritize that. You have to recognize that. You have to put that in its proper place, right? So it is, putting women in their proper place. And I know that that's an emotionally charged statement, but that's the challenge. And if you can't do it, if you can't put female wants and needs in their place, if you over-prioritize them in your society, in your civilization, if you become unbalanced and, you go up and down and too far in these directions, you go off course. You can't get anything accomplished. You need the strong, steady hand of an intelligent, experienced, testosterone-based man who is equipped to deal with reality, to overcome obstacles, to stay focused on your tasks. This is what men need to do, and this is what we're discouraged from doing. To not let emotional things bother you. I brought up an example a while ago. If you were flying a plane and they came to you and they said, there's a passenger in the third row and they think your shoes are stupid, right? You wouldn't crash the plane. You wouldn't start to cry. You wouldn't do anything about it. You would just say, that's, don't even tell me about things like that while I'm flying the plane. After I land this plane, then I'll deal with it. No, not really. You would need to be the type of person who doesn't really care about those types of things or recognizes how unimportant those things are. So as a society, as a civilization, we need to be like, the good pilot who knows what's important. And as a man, as the leader in your individual life, this is what you need. You can't get distracted. You can't be chasing after, getting people to like you or virtue signaling. You have to do what's right for you, your future, your health. Hopefully that translates into, I know that's a little vague. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that for now. So let me know what you think about this in the comments section below. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate, and join me again, Howard Dare, as I plan to have more content for you. Thank you, MGTOW.